Ladies and gentle people, here we are with another astrology video, and today we're going to talk about Jupiter and Sagittarius. Yes, again, I have made a video talking about Jupiter and Sagittarius before, actually about 2 weeks ago, but I decided to make a new one because I wasn't really happy with that one. I spent too much time, I think, talking about details which were not as important, especially trying to give everyone something based on their moon sign and their ascendant sign. And, you know, I will delete that video just because I don't want to have two videos on here, because some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is going to be the same. So it's not necessarily that I take back anything, it's just that I would like to develop a better format for these videos for you to get most value out of. And one of the things which I really want to do is help you learn astrology. I want to help you understand astrology. Not just, you know, rely on me to come out, or some other astrologer, to come out and tell you something for your ascendant sign, for your moon sign, for your sun sign, but really cast your chart and look at it and try to understand it to the best of your ability. In the, you know, maybe you have limited time to spend on astrology, but I think that's always time well spent, right? If you can cut back on, if you think, well, I don't have time to learn astrology in so much detail, well, if you can cut back on some soap opera or something else that you're doing that is totally useless and learn some astrology, I think you will be glad you did that. And actually, if you go down below in the links in the description, you can find the Hybrid Astrology Backbone Manual, which I highly recommend if you want to understand astrology in general. It covers all of the basics on planets, signs, houses, aspects, 3 kinds of aspects, which you don't hear about every day. And a 5th chapter on the condition of planets, which teaches you how to judge the condition of a planet in a horoscope. Very, very, I won't say very accurately, because there's more accurate ways of determining the condition of a planet. But comparing to what else is popular in astrology in general, I would say, in all humbleness, that it's pretty efficient and pretty accurate. So most of what I'm going to give you in these videos are going to be based on that system. So many of the things, you know, I will prescribe how you can take this information and apply it to your chart based on your placements and whatnot. But really, if you're using a different system of astrology, I can't really vouch for these prescriptions, okay? So without further ado, we're talking about Jupiter and Sagittarius. Now, first of all, Jupiter is the planet of benevolence, of expansion, of wisdom, of growth, of proliferation of life, right? When cells multiply and become a more complex organism, that's Jupiter. That's represented by Jupiter. That's why Jupiter is the significator of children and bearing offspring. So Jupiter is associated with all good things, okay? And the thing to understand about Jupiter, though, is that it's not necessarily always going to be positive. Like, I see around the internet and whatnot, many astrologers, you know, Jupiter is transiting your this house, positivity comes to that house. Jupiter is transiting that house, positivity comes to that house. I don't want to take away from the positivity of Jupiter, because obviously Jupiter is the planet of positivity. But that's not its main trait. The main trait is that it's a planet of expansion and of growth. And only because the human nature is inclined towards growth and expansion, that's the ultimate human nature of growth and expansion and evolution, right? That's why Jupiter is such a good planet. But growth can often be problematic, okay? So we have to keep that in mind. If, you know, I'm going to give a bad example, something bad that Jupiter can produce, right? If you have an infection, Well, it's Jupiter helping that infection develop, right? It's proliferation of life. That infection is life, and it's trying to eat us, okay? And so many other things, okay, that Jupiter can be not necessarily so positive for. So Jupiter just expands things. Jupiter develops things, but it can develop very easily. It can develop the things that we don't want to develop in our life. So we need to understand this. Now again, a lot of whether Jupiter is more likely to increase the things which we don't want, or expand or grow or proliferate things which we don't want, or things which we may at least at first perceive as troublesome, depends a lot on the condition of Jupiter in your natal chart, something again which you can learn in the Hybrid Astrology Backbone Manual. Look at the function of Jupiter, and look at the overall condition, the dignity especially, right? Jupiter is going to seek to bring something positive your way in the matters relating to the house where it transits, and the houses that it rules, and where it's placed in your natal chart. Jupiter always seeks to bring you more wisdom, more expansion, more growth, more positivity. But here's the thing, for example, if you have a Jupiter which is not necessarily in such a good condition in your chart, and I see this every so often, or actually I should say quite often, Jupiter not being in a great condition in your chart, you may not be able to make use of a positive situation for positive growth. Or there are people with problematic Jupiters which can take that potential growth energy and transform it, because we are alchemists. We are in charge of these processes. We can control them, and we do control them either consciously or unconsciously. And so many times natives who have a problematic Jupiter placement can take that potential energy and transform it into something they really ultimately don't want. And they may also be positive and optimistic about the wrong things. Optimistic about something which is not going to turn out the way that they want to, and they're setting themselves up for a disappointment, okay? Now, keeping all of these things in mind, that no planet is just going to do good or just going to do bad. Every planet has the potential to bring you things that you want and things that you don't want, okay? Now, Jupiter has a lot of potential to bring us things that we really want, that we ultimately want. Not like Venus, where Venus brings you like clothes and pleasure and fancy things and sensuality and delicious food. Jupiter can bring all of that as well. Jupiter is more than capable to bring that, but Jupiter is more concerned with a broader sense of abundance, a more cosmic sense of abundance, okay? And if that can trickle down into more comfort, more pleasure, all the better. Jupiter doesn't mind. So Sagittarius is one of the signs ruled by Jupiter. Each living planet rules 2 signs. You can also you don't need to read about that in the Hybrid Astrology Backbone Manual. You can go read about the traditional lords of the houses, of the signs, which is what the Hybrid Astrology system is based upon. It's the traditional lord. So each living planet, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, each of these 5 planets rules 2 signs. And of course, the 2 signs that are left, because there are 12 signs, are ruled by the sun and the moon. So each sign represents a certain part of the planet's nature. So there's, for Jupiter, there's Sagittarius and there's Pisces. Now, the fact that Jupiter also rules Pisces is actually going to be important for the transit of Jupiter, even if it's transiting Sagittarius. But Jupiter's transiting Sagittarius, it's transiting one of its own signs, and it's transiting its root sign, okay? Jupiter is rooted in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is the sign of Hybrid Astrology keyword ascension, the sign of ascension, right? It's the upward arrow, shoot for the stars. We should aim high, we should set lofty goals, and be very optimistic that we can reach those goals. Now, these goals will especially have to do, ideally, with the house that Sagittarius is in our chart, the house where Jupiter is placed in our natal chart, and as a secondary indication, or a secondary thing to factor in, the house of Pisces in our chart. Now, this is where Pisces becomes important. Combine these three: the house of Sagittarius, house of Jupiter in your chart, and house of Pisces in your chart, and you understand what transits of Jupiter are generally going to be about, regardless of the house where it transits, right? Yeah, you have to factor all of these in. And so look at that, look at those indications. If one of these houses is a challenging house, then it's more likely that Jupiter is going to say, okay, well, I'm going to bring you a lot of good stuff. There is that promise, there is that potential. I'm going to help you manifest things here. I'm going to help you be optimistic about these things. However, there's some challenges. You need to be challenged through some things in order to learn something, okay? But then if Jupiter is not so positive in your chart and rules negative houses, that can be quite problematic, because Jupiter in Sagittarius can... transit of Jupiter through Sagittarius can make us jump, leap headfirst into things with blind optimism, things which will, Sagittarius is often known for taking a leap that it can't make. That's, I didn't make that up, that's in mythology. So, you really have to gauge the condition of Jupiter in your chart, and if Jupiter is slightly problematic, or is more problematic in your chart, then I would be mindful about taking leaps which are too courageous during the next year, between about now, the 9th of, or actually the 8th, depending on where you are in the world, of November, and the 2nd of December 2019. So, but if Jupiter is in a good condition, if it's in good dignity, has good positive strength versus negative strength, if Jupiter is aspected by its friends, by other benefics, all of that indicates that you should be positive, that more positivity is going to come your way, even if Jupiter is going to transit your 8th house or your 3rd house, which can bring a bit of challenge our way. This indicates that you can muster the power to be positive, optimistic about it, overcome and grow through it, expand and evolve, and ultimately see this experience and the events produced by this transit as very beneficial. Now, you do want to look at the houses from the ascendant, right? The so-called main houses. You want to look at the sub-houses, again, sub-house system, learn all about that, from the moon. Because if you're considering Jupiter's transit, the houses as taken from the ascendant, you're going to see what Jupiter seeks to bring in more concrete terms in your life, in more manifest, tangible terms. Whereas from the moon, you see more of, okay, so this is what Jupiter brings from the ascendant in more concrete terms. But then from the moon, we see, how does that influence my experience? How am I experiencing that? How does that go through my consciousness and get reflected in my mind, right? How do I experience that? What do I make of it in my own experience? The moon is experience of life, right? It's the mind. How it influences us emotionally. So, for example, we can have Jupiter transit the 10th house from the ascendant, and that should be great for our job, for our career, for our public recognition, for our achievements, for doing good deeds in the world. All fantastic, okay, given that Jupiter's condition is also good. But then let's say we have Moon in the 3rd house in our natal chart. That would put the 10th house 8th from the moon. And that would indicate that Jupiter is transiting 8th from the moon while in the 10th house. So maybe we're getting that position, we're getting that raise, or that that better job, or we're being recognized for something. But at the same time, the same chain of events is somehow disturbing on our experience. It's shaking up our experience. It's something unexpected, or it's something that we find hard to manage. It's experienced as a change, which is not very fluent. Okay, there may be emotional disturbances because of this. So, and also, from the sun, how does the transit of Jupiter influence your vitality? How alive do you feel? How radiant do you feel? How expansive does your consciousness feel during that transit? So factor all of those in, right? Challenging houses for Jupiter to be in, either from the moon, the ascendant, or the sun. Actually, from the sun, no. From the ascendant and from the moon, you would take the 3rd, the 6th, the 8th, and the 12th slightly, but not so much with Jupiter, because Jupiter rules the original 12th sign, which is Pisces. So really, Jupiter transiting 12th from your ascendant can really expand your inner realms a lot. So that can be very positive. You may lose sleep, but it can be very positive. So these are challenging houses. Even from the sun, you would take 3rd, not so much, though it may hype your energy and dissipate it in various activities that you don't necessarily need to be doing. That applies from the ascendant and from the moon as well. But from the sun as well, the 6th house, the 8th house will be a bit taxing on your energy, perhaps. Radical fluctuations of energy with Jupiter, right? Jupiter is the planet of exaggeration. So, for example, Jupiter in someone's chart can really indicate if that person is prone to make excesses in their life, to have excessive vices in their life. If you have like Jupiter with Venus in not such a great dignity, that it's likely that person is making some great is abusing something that is causing them momentary pleasure, momentary enjoyment, but in the long run is going to hurt them. Okay, so keep this in mind with Jupiter. So that's most of what I can cover, which is significant. That I can do here slightly superficially in this video. So go take a look at your chart, use the hybrid system, and gauge the transit of Jupiter as per your chart. All in all, this has the potential to be a really, cannot stress this enough, a really fantastic transit. Jupiter in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the Lord of Jupiter. Jupiter is the Lord of Sagittarius. I'm very sleepy. It's 2:45 a.m. And I just decided to sit down and do this video at this hour. So I hope that you guys will enjoy it. Again, Sagittarius, Jupiter go together. Jupiter is at home in Sagittarius. Expand, grow, aim high. Except if Jupiter is not in such a great condition in your chart, be careful what you aim for. Don't aim too high. Don't aim without having the proper wisdom behind of your leaps. Okay, so guys, enjoy this transit of Jupiter in Sagittarius. I certainly have been waiting for it for a long time, even though it's in my 8th house. Being a Taurus ascendant, even though I'm sure that some things are not going to be at face value, they're not going to be as fantastic as you would expect things produced by Jupiter and Sagittarius to be. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fantastic transit. A lot is going to happen in the world during this time. A lot is going to happen on a personal level, especially for those of us who are inclined more towards evolving, growing spiritually, gaining wisdom, exploring life Jupiter in Sagittarius is really going to be on our side. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, check out the links in the bio, and I'll see you on the next video, which, by the way, we're going to talk about the transits of the nodes. South node going to Capricorn, North node going to Cancer. Very important. Not given enough importance, especially in Western astrology. Not given as much importance, but quite important in fact. So enjoy the next year of Jupiter in Sagittarius. Ciao, guys.